And on the 8th day, God looked down on his planned paradise and said, I need a caretaker. So God made a farmer.
Howdy folks, Darren with you. Welcome to Cross Timbers Farm here at our 8th Day Chronicles channel. And as you can see today, we're in the shop. It's a rainy day and we've been in the shop working on our DIY solar fence charger. There's a lot of good videos on YouTube about how to build these things, and we have decided to take up the task of building our own solar powered fence energizer. We in the past have used and are still using Parmac Solar Pack 12s, and we did a video review of those solar electric fence energizers, and we're real happy with those energizers. They are fantastic. We have had no problems with them. They have worked for us for 10 years and we're really happy with them. This new pasture that we're fencing in, it's not new, but it's new for us to be fencing it and putting livestock on it other than some quarter horses we had on it at one time. This pasture is way back in the farthest corner of our property, and that area back there is absolutely coyote country. And we want to put a pretty powerful fence energizer back there, and we want to stay solar. So we have decided to take up the task of building our own. Now, when I say building our own, I'm not meaning that we wire all this up and build these little components ourselves. We've purchased each component separately, and we're wiring all those together. We can pick and choose which components we want to use for this. So that's what we've done. To start out with, we built a box. This box is 2 foot long by 12 inches wide or deep, and we've put a roof on it with at least 2 inches of overhang around each to shed rain. We put a piece of used tin we had on it. We found a good piece of scrap tin that we had left over, and we attached tin to it to waterproof it. We've painted it with some exterior floor paint. Floor paint I found works really good because it's tough. It's got to withstand foot traffic, so we've painted it and weatherproofed this the best we can. On the side over here, I'll show you in a moment, we actually use some of the gray PVC conduit for electricity, for electrical use. We've put an inlet / outlet over here on the side for our charging wires coming out of our charger to come out and the solar to go in. So it should be a pretty waterproof, self-contained system here. So we have went again with a Parmac charger or energizer. We've been really happy with Parmac. The Solar Pack 12s have served us really well. As you can see, we did hinge the top, so it just raises right up and we can access everything in here. We built this out of 1/2 inch exterior plywood, like I said, and we painted it. We are using a Deep Cycle marine battery. It is a Group 27, and pardon me for one moment, age. I have to use glasses to see this fine print on stuff. Okay, this battery is a Group 27, and it is a 109 amp hour battery. Okay, the Solar Pack 12s we've been using, we recently had to replace a battery in one. That battery had been in for almost 5 years, and the battery had discharged and discharged, charged and discharged until it was just worn out. Batteries do have a lifespan, and we replaced it. Here's the battery that came out. This is a Parmac Powerhouse rechargeable lead acid battery. The battery that's in those Solar Pack 12s, this is it right here. Okay, this battery is 12 volt, 14 amp hours. 14 amp hours. Okay, we had a situation back about 3 or 4 years ago I think it was in February, where we went almost 2 weeks with, I think we had 1 day of sun in 2 weeks. During that time, our fences went down. Our batteries had been depleted, and with no sun, they just was not being recharged, and the storage capacity of these batteries, the 14 amp hour, was just not enough to sustain that long of a period without sunlight. So at that time, we determined with livestock we was never going to let that happen again. So we installed an AC charger, a Ken Cove AC charger that we installed in our barn, that if our solar ever goes down from lack of being able to recharge, that we could flip a few switches and turn on a AC powered fence energizer as a backup. Okay, with this new system, I wanted something with more battery capacity, more energy storage capacity, that this don't happen again, that without sun for so many days, that our system goes down. Hence, the main reason we decided to build our own. That's the main reason. Go from a 14 amp hour battery to a 109 amp hour battery. I am no battery / solar expert by far. I'm green at this. But common sense would tell me that 14 amp hour battery versus this 109 amp hour battery, this battery would outlast that one bunches and bunches. You can do the math. I did it, but I don't have it right here with me, and math's not my strong suit. So we've went with a 109 amp hour battery in here, and we should be able to sustain a week, 2 weeks, maybe even 3 with no sunlight, and our fence not go down, just because of the storage capacity of this bigger battery and more capacity, amp hour capacity. So let's take a quick look in the box. I'll show you our components and some of the struggles I'm having. Okay, here's a look inside. As you can see, we have a 12 volt battery. It is a group 27, and we have our leads from our charge controller laying there, our alligator clamps. Here we have a cheap charge controller. That's where my issues are happening, and I'll get into that in a moment. And we are using a Parmac I'm sorry, it's not a solar pack, that's what I'm used to saying. It is a Magnum 12 DC charge fence energizer, and it is a 3.1 output joule charger. Okay, as you see down in the very bottom, we have an outlet down there out of PVC electrical conduit that we have put through the wall of the box and waterproofed it. It's to keep water out for our hot and ground wires from the energizer to go out and the solar to come in. Okay, next component, and this is the part of this system that I don't understand real well, and I think part of my problem is this is a dirt cheap top solar charge controller, and this thing has proven so far for me to be very hard to use, to understand. I'm hoping it'll work, and if it doesn't, then we're just going to have to replace that charge controller. This little charge controller, it's a cheap model, a very cheap one, low end. But some of the reviews I saw on it said, hey, for very basic systems, this is all you need. It'll work fine. Sometimes you get what you pay for. This thing may work. My knowledge of how charge controllers work is very basic. I know that it takes the power from the solar coming in and it sends it to the battery and then to your load. Then you can control how much you want your battery to charge, where you want it to stop charging so you don't cook your battery. Then you can control how low you want your battery to get before the load disconnects, to keep from ruining your battery. And this little charge controller, making those settings where I want them on this controller has been a session in aggravation. The settings, the menu, and entering your values and things and getting them to stay where you want, I have slowly found out that this charge controller is, for someone like me that is very unfamiliar with using a charge controller, is very frustrating. This thing is not very user-friendly. Now, if you've been working with charge controllers and building solar systems for years, this would be child's play to you. I'm sure you're probably sitting there scratching your head like, what's wrong with this guy? Why can't he figure that out? Someone that has never used one, this thing's proven to me to be pretty frustrating to use. I'm continuing to do research on how to properly use this charge controller, to have it to the settings and to work the way I want it to work at the settings that I wish for it to be at. We're still crossing that bridge. It works, but it's not staying set where that I want it to, so it may be one of those things that thing gets tossed in the junk pile and a better charge controller put in its place to replace it. I don't know. We're not giving up on it just yet. We're going to get it out in the field and in the sun and see what happens. We have, let's take a quick look at our solar panel here. Here is our solar panel. As you can see, we are using a Renology pole mount for our solar panel. And this is a 30-watt solar panel. The pole mount, as you can see, this uses big U-bolts. Okay. The solar panel mount will actually tilt. You can tilt it and turn it on the post with however you want for the sun. And we have put a multimeter to the solar panel here, and even under this artificial light here in the shop, these fluorescent LED lights, it's putting out power even under these. Shining an LED light right on it, we were getting almost 15 watts, but when we connected it into our solar charger, we're getting nothing. And I think that has to do with the settings. It's not working to the settings that I've set it on. So I don't know. I'm really green at this. You know, anytime you start anything, it's a learning process. if you buy a tractor and decide that an older model tractor and you need to replace the head gaskets on it and you've never done that, it's going to take you a while to learn how to do it. It's a learning process. Same with this solar charge controller. I pretty much understand how solar works, the basics of it. Now, if you get into really deep parts of a solar system, I will be really, really lost, but a very basic, simple system, I think I kind of understand how they work for the most part. So it's a learning process. We're learning. We're going to get this outside soon. We've been working on our goat fencing project and we're moving along with that. We got to pull some more wire and put some strainers in and tighten up our fence in the section. Then we're going to be able to hook this charger up for a test run to see how well it works. So if you have any advice about a solar charge controller for a simple system like this, we're not powering a house or an RV or all sorts of different stuff. This is a simple system powering an electric fence. And I think my weak link is that charge controller. Drop me a comment below and let me know your thoughts. Do I need to just trash this little cheap charge controller and buy a better one? I do not need a very big, robust, fancy, super duper charge controller for this system. I realize that. However, I do need one that's reliable, that's going to work, because we can't afford for our fences to go down just all the time. Just going out, not working. This thing's got to work. And I think my weak link is that charge controller. And I'm going to be doing more and more research on this charge controller to try to learn better how to set it in the right settings to work. So this is our DIY solar fence energizer, and here is the little manual that come with that charge controller right here. And this manual is tiny. You can see how little it is, and the writing in it is so little that even with my reading glasses, I about have to have a magnifying glass to see this stuff. It's horrible. And some of the even in the English in it, which tells me this thing's probably made in China or somewhere like that, the English in it's kind of hard to understand. It's kind of broken English, and the instructions inside this little manual are hard to understand. It's not written to be very user friendly. It's like they expect you, when you buy this solar charge controller, to already know how to do solar installations. And this just gives you a quick overview of the capabilities of this, and doesn't really go into much detail about what it is and why you would set this number here and what it does. It doesn't really tell you. It's pretty vague. So, and it was cheap. That charge controller is a cheap unit, but like I said earlier, I think for a very simple system, just to run a fence energizer, that would be enough. And from some of the things that I read, it should be enough. Should be plenty for what I need here, but it's proven to be difficult. So, we'll see. Okay, like I said, we decided to go again with a Parmac fence charger. We've been really happy with the Parmac chargers. The SolarPak 12s that we've been using have, over the years, proven very reliable, very good fence chargers. And with this DIY system, the 12 volt, we wanted to go again with Parmac. And here's the charger we went with. It's the Magnum 12 UO 12 volt fence charger. It is 3.1 joule output, 30-mile range, 12-volt low impedance, and it actually does come with the built-in performance meter that shows the condition of your fence, the charge of your battery, the updated system that Parmac has came out with to show how the meter jumps back and forth when you first turn it on. We're really happy with Parmac. We're still really happy with those SolarPak 12s. They're good chargers. I have no issue with them. I just wanted more battery storage, energy storage in the batteries for longer life throughout periods of no sun, and I wanted a little more higher joule output for this back pasture because it is in coyote country. Just last night about 10 p.m. me and Susan was in the living room of our home, and she said, "What's that noise?" And the TV was on, and I muted the TV, and it sounded like there were literally no less than 30 or 40 coyotes right over in our neighbor's pasture, howling and carrying on. And our back pasture, where this is going to be energizing, is back in that area where it's the furthest pasture we have away from the barn, away from human activity, away from our home, and it's coyote country back there. We've been running a game camera back there most of the winter, and the predators, the coyotes and bobcats and things that frequent in that area is alarming. So we wanted the highest, not the highest, but a higher joule output than those SolarPak 12s to put back there, and something with more battery storage that was going to not go down in cloudy weather. If we have a cloudy, overcast days that persist for 2 weeks, we're not going to lose our fence power back there. So the charge controller is my nemesis right now, and you can pick these little charge controllers up on Amazon or eBay, something like that, by the hundreds, cheap. Anywhere you'll see them anywhere from $8 all the way up to about $15 at the highest one, but they'll average about $10. And if someone's selling them on Amazon for $10, wherever they're made in China or Taiwan or wherever, they probably got about $2 in it to build it. But everything I read, most things I read, not everything, but most stuff I read said that this charge controller for a very simple system like this would work. It's a PWM, it's pulse, and most things I read said this will work. You can get by really cheap with it because it works, and we're on a budget, so we're trying to watch every penny that goes into this build. But I'm not going to go the cheap route if it sacrifices security of our animals. So if this thing, when I get it out in the field and get the solar mounted in the sun where we want it, and this thing's still giving me issues, I will not hesitate to jerk that solar charge controller out of this box and throw it in the junk pile and order a much better one to go in here. So we'll see. All our other components are good. That's the weak link in my opinion. And my opinion on solar, bear in mind, is based on very, very limited knowledge. So I'm learning as I go. That's the way you have to be. When you are running a small family farm, you have to learn to be a jack of all trades. You have to be able to mechanic and be a gardener and a veterinarian, and I'm finding out now to be a solar energy, I'm not going to say expert, but have knowledge. Let's just put it that way, on how to work on this stuff. You got to be able to work on stuff yourself. You can't outsource your labor for everything. So you got to be able to do it. So if this continues, we'll cross that bridge when we come. But thanks for being with us here in the shop today. A quick overview of our solar system. We have one thing that I will mention quickly before I go. The wire leads coming from our Energizer that go down and out, they are insulated. They are double wall insulated to go. We trimmed off the insulation where they hook to the Energizer as minimum as possible. For the bare wire to connect, we form a circle with our pliers to go up over that post and tighten it down, and it only comes out maybe 1/4 of an inch. Then it goes back to the insulation, and they are insulated all the way down and out, so there's no contact anywhere in here to ground out our system. So we're happy with everything but our solar fence chart controller, and maybe I can get it working right. Maybe I can do a little more research, and maybe with some comments, someone tell me what I'm doing wrong. I can enter values of how high I want it to go before I cut it off, how low I want it to go before the load cuts off. And I really don't much want the load to cut off this thing. I mean, when you're talking about the load cutting off, then you're talking about your fence going dead, just going off. And when you've got animals in there that's in that thing, you know, around the clock every day, your fence going down is not good. So we want to be able to maintain. We know our property good enough to know where we're going to mount this solar panel to be in the very best sunlight possible, to keep this battery charged, to keep power coming into it, and to keep power going out, so to keep our fence up. So we'll take you along as we install this thing out in the field. The box, we've designed the box here just to sit on some concrete blocks. We're going to sit the concrete blocks right in front of the post that holds the solar panel, and it'll all be accessible right in one area. We're going to fence around it to keep the animals off this stuff where they can't access it, and we'll go from there. We'll take you back with us as we install this on the fence. But the build is basically done if we can just figure out this charge controller. All right, thanks for being with us here in the shop today here at Cross Timbers Farm. And if you haven't, we'd really appreciate if you'd subscribe to our channel. God bless and have a great day. Full power on the charger. You can see, if it'll focus, solar panel on the left, and we're talking about the little display. The battery in the middle, an arrow showing that power is going out to the load. The solar panel is hooked up, and the solar panel is generating right now under these artificial lights about 12 watts, but you can see there's no arrow between the solar panel and the battery, meaning there's no power coming from the panel into the controller, then going out to the battery to charge that battery. And I have messed with this charge controller settings to try to get that power to come into the battery from the solar panel, to no avail. None of the settings that I select seem to work. maybe a bad charge controller. Maybe I just need to get this thing out in the sun to full power instead of these artificial lights in the shop. We're going to try that. That's our next step.